When it comes to my vehicles, I don't like surprises. That's why I make sure they're fully serviced and maintained. Whether I do it myself or have the work done, I go to the same reliable sources: Auto Value and Bumper to Bumper parts stores and certified service centers. I know I'm getting quality parts backed by their North American warranty. Avoid surprises and go with the names that you can count on: Auto Value and Bumper to Bumper, where you'll find these fine products.
That's a commercial you see each week on my TV show, The Chevy Sportsman. Hello again, everybody. I'm Alan Warren, and I'm once again pleased to bring you another special collection of classic outdoor films from many decades ago. Now, this videotape is not your run-of-the-mill bunch of fishing stories. What you're about to see has been made possible by my friends at Auto Value and Bumper to Bumper Auto Parts Stores. Now, these folks, along with the pros at O'Reilly Auto Parts Stores, have teamed up to help fund and produce this classic collection of fishing stories. I do hope you enjoy them, and remember, when it comes to auto parts and service, you can count on my friends at Auto Value, Bumper to Bumper, and O'Reilly Auto Parts Stores. They're great folks who love the same things that you and I do. Our special collection of outdoor TV fishing classics begins right after this.
This is my baby. Actually, that's my kid with my baby. It's a '69 Camaro convertible, and it's been through a complete rebuild and a lot of new parts. Over the years, one place has always had the parts I needed at great prices: O'Reilly Auto Parts. They're a family-run business, and I like that, because they've always treated me like family. There's a lot of my heart and a lot of O'Reilly in this car. Maybe that's why it's still part of our family.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. You want it? We got it.
And this forbidding section of the Sunshine State holds a certain almost hypnotic fascination to anglers from every walk of life. Here is where your most exotic angling dreams come true. Thousands of islands, inlets, eddies, well, call them what you will, brother. There's fishing here in this great national park to last a lifetime. And as in this case, many anglers make the long trip in a cruiser. And then when the right spot is reached, angler, tackle, guide, and anything else that might come in handy on a tarpon expedition is loaded aboard the small boat out of which the action will take place. What a day and what thrilling adventures lie ahead. Everything set, away we go. And when Mr. Angler is on the prowl for this silvery beauty, all optimism should be left behind, because more than one expert has emerged from this mysterious swamp with a red face. And already the guide spots several big ones rolling on the surface. Here's where real accuracy pays off. The lure hits dead center, a varied retrieve, and Socko, one ties into it, and the battle royal begins. By natural instincts, this demon of the swamp heads for the roots of the mangroves. Hang on to him, fella. If he makes it, he's as good as gone. And watch closely, and you'll actually see the monster toss that plug right back in your lap. Tough luck, but obviously there are plenty more where he came from. The big trick in tarpon fishing is not to hook one, but to land them. Now I've seen everything. This guy can't be serious. Tarpon on a fly rig? Oh, no, but our expert says yes and quickly prepares a streamer offering on which to take another prize. I'll say one thing in his favor: he's got plenty of guts, but it takes more than that to land a tarpon. Whammo, he murdered it, and now the fun begins. Talk about a jumping jack. Man, oh man, this is it. Look at that line tear through the water. It's a wonder it's holding. Uh-oh, and that's the end of round two. Too bad, but we try to warn you. Now what say we go after a really big one? Of course, the last two couldn't necessarily be classified as minnows. Sometimes the really big babies are found sunning themselves right on the surface. Well, we shall see what we shall see. A strange and dangerous place, these Everglades. No man alive could ever hope to get out of them on foot. Death lurks behind every grotesque bush. she blows. This is the one. Let's see if he's interested in what we have to offer. He is. Watch him take that plug. He's hooked, and out goes the line. You just can't stop that fella, Mr. Expert, at least not right now. What a fighter. Just look at him go. Here's one of the main reasons why tarpon fishing is so dangerous. Quite frequently, in their frantic bid for freedom, they'll leap right in a boat, and brother, that's a darn good time for all passengers to go overboard. The battle is reaching a climax. Finally, it looks as though man, armed with his knowledge and modern equipment, might emerge from this conflict the victor. But even now, extreme caution must be observed. It'd be tough to lose him now, and it looks as though he's going to try to land this baby without a gaff or net. Easy now. And he did it. But don't be too sure that you can too. You just might be unpleasantly surprised. Nothing different in the way of tackle or boat is required in the taking of the broadbill swordfish. The same type of standard deep-sea tackle will put you in business. The mate rigs a swordfish bait. Yep, that's a whole bonita. A big hook carefully laced inside gives you an idea of the sort of trouble our expert is looking for right now. The lookout spots one. There he is on the surface. Our expert gets into his battle gear and everybody goes into action. The bait goes over the stern. Will he see it? Will he take it? Will we hook him? At best, the odds are always 10 to 1 against hooking a sword and 100 or more to 1 against landing him. He hit it. Yes, he took it. Our expert strikes him. Is he still there? The line tightens. Yes, he's on. Our first broadbill. So darn mad, he tears up the surface. Though he's seldom bulldogs like most gladiators of the seven seas jump. Their swords are like battle axes that will slice the toughest steel leader. And their mouths are so tender that one extra hard pull, one mistake on the sword that might have been mounted on the wall back home will remain just an exciting memory. Sometimes it takes 6 or 8 hours of back-breaking struggle and all the work in the world to win a fight with a swordfish. Many experts never succeed. Even when he's finally brought in close to the boat, anything can happen, and usually does. It's not over yet. No, sir, not by any means. If he decides to go again, it may be hours before we get another glimpse of him, and the sharp line will slash through the mate's hands like a knife. But this time he was in to stay, but it took all hands to hold him. Finally, he's hauled aboard. Boy, oh boy, are we happy. Well over 400 pounds of angry violence finally subdued. Landing a swordfish with rod and reel is one of the most difficult feats in any kind of fishing. Yes, sir. Nice going, fella. But hold on, folks. Don't go away. Our experts are just getting warmed up on this big stuff. Wait till you see what this bait brings forth. There he is, a striped marlin, and a big one. All right, partner, swing that boat around. And the invitation to trouble goes overboard. From here, it looks like things are really going to happen. The bait rides the surface. He's after it. Look out, he's got him. Okay, gal, strike him hard. That's it, lady, you've got yourself tied on to a lot of fish. And you ain't seen nothing until you've seen a big striped marlin go into his acrobatic routine either. Yes, 300 pounds of fighting fury tearing up the surface of that water. Just look at him go. Man! Say, who said fishing was just a man's sport? Take a tip from me, gals, and don't let the old man kid you. It's as much your game as tennis or golf. Don't let him get the best of you, lady. Hang on and pull for all you're worth. Boy, oh boy, what a fighter. She's getting him in close now, but you're never sure of these big marlin until they're gapped, and the rope is cinched around their powerful tail. And it takes block and tackle to haul him aboard. Yes, it seems impossible, doesn't it, that such a monster could be conquered by that little fishing line. Well, congratulations are certainly in order for this lady angler. But we're not stopping now. No, sir, we've still got that really big monster to get yet. But wait a minute. 2 marlin tailing on the surface. This is good luck. Without a moment's hesitation, our expert gets set for his second big battle of the day. The bait is tossed out, and the marlin are circled. Come and get it, big boy. One of them grabs it. And the hook is set. Away he goes and busts up the water like a series of depth charges. Watch these amazing slow motion jumps, and this is really a big fish. 30 feet into the air. Wow! There he goes again. Hold on to him, fella. It's do or die now. This bruiser just won't tame down. What a show of streamlined beauty and fight. Is he ready to give up? Not by a darn sight. Even after an hour and a half of this, there's never a let-up. Has the leader, and the gaff is set. But even then, the monster puts on a grand display of fight and fury. What a scrapping finish he puts on. He didn't hurt us, did he, my friend? No, sir, not much. Oh, my aching back. But it sure was worth it. 440 pounds and every pound a bombshell of excitement. For spectacular display, you're really tops in all the briny deep, old boy, and we'll never forget the marvelous moment you've given us. there's one thing an angler digs in a given locale, it's an abundance of game fish available for him to catch, if in fact his experience and equipment are adequate. The next prerequisite for a successful fishing jaunt is a fairly stable climate during most of the year. Well, most anywhere along the famous Texas Gulf Coast, these two factors exist. Add to that good accommodations, knowledgeable guides, the ability of recreation and industry to hit it off so well, and brother, you just can't miss. Anyway, here in the Brazos Port, Texas area, smack dab in the Gulf of Mexico, knowing all of these things, I'm feeling pretty good this morning. This is quite a spot. And if what I'm going after offshore today cooperates, well, I'm going to be on cloud 9 before the day is done. Fact is, I'm going after big ling with light tackle. Brother, that's an angling challenge if ever there was one. Boy, it sure is beautiful this early in the morning. I can't think of anything I'd rather do at this hour than be heading out for a new fishing adventure. Oh, by the way, today I'll be angling with Pat Cox, a real pro from Houston, and veteran offshore charter boat skipper Doc Jones. Doc's built himself quite a reputation around these parts as a real fish getter. That's another reason why I'm so optimistic this AM.
One thing about him, you can always count on that big dude being on time for a fishing trip.
How you doing, Jim? Come on aboard.
Morning, Doc. How are you?
Just fine.
Hello, James.
How are you this morning, Pat?
I'm ready.
Doc, are we going to go after some of those ling today? Is this a good ling day, you think?
Yes, sir, if you got the luck. You know, it's 20% knowledge and 80% luck. I got the knowledge, and if you got the luck, we'll get by.
Hasn't changed a bit, has it?
No.
I have the tackle, so
Yeah.
let's shove off, shall we, Doc?
We got
That's a
ready.
deal. We'll get her underway and take off.
Doc informs us that we're going out about 25 or 30 miles and troll around the anchored shrimp boats. For ling, according to Doc, you can't work a better spot. It seems the shrimpers do all their netting at night. Just before dawn, they've finished their runs and have culled all the undesirables and tossed them back into the water. Then the crews relax during the daylight hours. Quite naturally, the droppings from the huge nets, in addition to the discarded fish, provide a royal banquet for sports fish of all shapes and sizes in the area. And among them are monstrous ling, one of the best eating and strongest battlers in the Gulf. Everything seems to be all set. Come and get it, Mr. Ling, and then, as if the call was heard, Pat's got one. And now a real tug-of-war begins. Pat's got his work all cut out for him, particularly on that light spinning tackle. I've seen tackle a lot heavier, torn to ribbons by an infuriated ling. Believe you me, this is a real test for both the angler's skill and his equipment. Let's watch this. And to top it all, a sudden squall is rapidly descending upon us. The ling will have to be landed before that squall hits, or he'll be lost forever. Hang on, Pat, hang on. Oh, boy, look at the size of him. No wonder he fought so hard. Why, he's at least 50 pounds, and just because he's up near the boat doesn't mean that he still hasn't got a lot of steam left either. Pat's racing against time. At this point, it's questionable which will happen first, landing the ling or getting caught right in the middle of the squall. And this baby's creating somewhat of a squall of his own. Look at him pound that water. Even though this big bruiser is still plenty green, we've decided to chance gaffing him. But it's a foregone conclusion that mayhem can break loose once he's on board. The gaff is set. Oh, my aching back. Over the side comes 50 pounds of writhing fury. If he ever gets off that gaff, we're going to be in lots of trouble. It's taking all I've got to hold him. Ah, but a quick application of the old persuader, and it's all over. Now you know why the ling is rated tops as a great sports fish, huh? And talk about excellent eating. This fella is considered a real delicacy of the sea. It's a known fact that ling usually travel in pairs. Sometimes there's a whole pack of them on the prow. And oftentimes when one is hooked, others will follow right along with it until it's gapped. No one knows why, so Doc heads for the same spot. And it paid off almost instantly. And just get a load of this action. drag is tightened down almost below the breaking point of the line. I had to do it, or the big ling would have spooled me on his first mad run. Our first glimpse of the monster confirms the fact that it's every bit as large as its predecessor. But finally the gaff is set and a very tired ling is brought on board. Just look at the size of him. Wow! Yes, a guy can certainly shake hands on this day. 2 50-pound ling on light tackle is all the sport any two anglers could ask for. The plain, simple truth is, one apiece of that size is enough. Well, sir, this is one to write home about. Out and back before noon with 2 beautiful lings. And as we pull into the pier, I know more than ever that this whole Brazosport area is an angler's paradise. No spot along the entire Gulf Coast can boast of any better fishing. And there's something else, too. One of the major contributing factors toward the success of any angling endeavor, regardless where it takes place, is the company you keep. Well, I have the best. So now I ask you, how could I possibly lose? And there's no better spot to take this gamester than in the clear, crystal blue waters of the Bahamas. You just never know when one of them will slam onto that bait, and then one of the most beautiful flashes of color you've ever seen starts flying through the air in an exhibition not soon forgotten by even the most veteran angler. This fish actually spends as much time out of the water as he does in it. Just grab a front row seat and watch this fella try to battle his way loose. Well, how do you like that? 2 of them hooked at the same time. And if we didn't know better, we'd swear this baby was trying to outdo his partner in that fight for freedom. Just look at him go, twisting and turning and fighting mad. Oh, brother, what a sight! Yes, ma'am, that's enough to bring a smile to anybody's face. Hang on, gal. Easy now, let's bring him in ever so gently. And with a heave and a hoe, our first dolphin is brought on board. And this is one fish that's rarely returned to the water. He's a real delicacy, and brother, he's going to taste mighty good on that shipboard dinner tonight. But wait a minute. Maybe we'll have a real feast and then some. The captain suddenly discovers that we're into a whole school of dolphin and quickly tosses bits of bait overboard in an effort to keep the school around the boat. And stay they do. Notice one fish hooked and the other one trying to grab the bait as it's thrown over the side. Man, this is really action. Okay, fella, yells the captain, grab that old rod and start hauling them in while we have the chance. And this time our expert decides on a light spinning outfit. Boy, if he connects, this ought to be a memorable contest. He makes a quick cast, teases the dolphin a little, then a little more. And socko, he nailed that bait. The hook is set hard and a real battle is on. And just get a load of this acrobat. Dolphin are a very popular game fish among sportsmen and offer the never-ending thrill of that good old aerial combat and long flashing runs. Their coloring is a beautiful blue, green, and silver, and upon being hooked, their bodies seem to pulsate with yellow, deep green, and gold. And here's some more fillets for our dinner. But oftentimes, old Mr. Dolphin will never say die. This one slips off the gaff and literally tears up the back end of the boat. He knocks over the charcoal broiler and a few other things before it can be subdued. Ah, what's the difference? It's quite a climax to a thrilling few minutes of fishing. Ah, but we're not done yet. No, sir, still in this wonderful waters of Bahamas. We're going to troll the deeper waters for that speedster of the 7 seas, the wahoo. And before you can say wahoo, there's the strike. Yes, sir, it's a wahoo, all right, and a pretty good-sized one to boot. And on 20-pound test monofilament line, this chap's going to have quite a battle on his hands. A highly respected game fish, the wahoo is a member of the mackerel family. He's comparatively scarce and is considered a prize catch. Their strike is startling and thrilling because of their incredible speed. Wahoo have been clocked at 40 miles an hour on a surface run. It just takes time and skill to get them to the boat. And what a sight in this clear water. This is an exceptionally large wahoo, and he'll be boated as a trophy. And for those lasting pictures. Easy now, don't let him slip away from us. There he is, 40 pounds of scrapping wahoo. What a fish! This is Captain Cy Bennett of Port Aransas, Texas. Cy is master of the Dolphin Party Boat, a sleek 65-foot steel hull that takes people out daily on fantastic offshore fishing trips. And today he's taking a group of us out to try our luck for bull redfish. It's customary to tie the Dolphin up to one of the many rigs found out here in the Gulf. There's not a better place where a man can try for redfish. Bait, usually mullet, is the order of the day. In the fall of the year, the big reds are down deep, right on the bottom. So the object is to get the bait right down there under his nose. And in order to do that, you need sufficient weight, because you have quite a current to fight also. Baited lines are in the water, and it doesn't take long before the action begins. I'll tell you one thing. You hook into a fairly good-sized redfish, it takes a lot of doing to get him up off the bottom. So, since this young lady angler was the first to connect, I was endeavoring to give her all the assistance I possibly could. Being from the old school, I'm a firm believer in the fact that amateur or professional, the person who hooks a fish is the one who should land it. Therefore, all I did was give her some instructions. And is she ever having fun? Nah, she's just acting that way. And there it is, a beautiful redfish. And from here he looks to be a good 20 pounds or more. Be ashamed to lose him. Ah, but this one's safely on board. What a thrill to land a fish of that size. Why, she's so happy she can hardly stand it. And who can blame her, huh? The fish is properly tagged and stuck in the icebox. And need I remind all of the fact that there's some of the most delicious eating that ever came out of the ocean. Bob Tucker, sports editor of Channel 6 in Corpus Christi, was my fishing companion that day, and as you can see, he has his hands full. These babies fight like blazes when they first take the bait down deep, and every inch to the surface. Once on top, they give you another battle. Look at him go. But here's one that didn't get away. Nice going, Bob. Nice going. Just imagine. This guy lives down here and has access to this type of angling anytime he can get out. Captain Bob Kelly, a well-known local angling expert, takes charge of the redfish, properly tags it, and puts it on ice. More cut bait is prepared. When the redfish are running, there's no time to waste. See what we mean? There's another dandy on the line, and just watch him cut up the surface of that water, would you? It isn't often that all members of a party boat connect with redfish ranging in weight from 22 to 37 pounds. This is really something to write home about. Yes, sir, there's mayhem on the Dolphin today. Everybody's been busy. Either landing fish, putting bait in the water, or preparing more bait. What you see here is just one of the many reasons why anglers from all over the country each year flock to Port Aransas for the fishing of their choice. I'll tell you another thing, gaffing and hauling aboard 10 or 15 of these big babies will make any man tired. Who's complaining? Not me. Incidentally, our two captains today, Kelly and Bennett, are making certain that everyone who catches a fish gets his fish. Each person has a number, and that number goes on each catch. And from here, I'd say that number is going to be used quite often today. Oftentimes, several are hooked at the same time and lines cross, but somehow, miraculously, not one fish was lost. Let's just sit back and enjoy this action. Let me tell you, that afternoon upon arriving at the Dolphin Dock, there was a bunch of very happy fishermen. There were so many reds it took quite a while to unload them. Needless to say, it'll be a long, long time before anyone forgets this day out in the Gulf. Yes, sir, there are a lot of tired but extremely satisfied anglers. It's always fun when good friends get together. Captain Cy and Bob Kelly are among the greatest. Warren Ham is the owner of the boat, and he's about as gracious a host as any person could ever expect to have. Now, I don't have to tell you folks how delicious the redfish is to eat, and those, my friends, are as fresh as you can possibly get them. Going out into the Gulf on a party boat like the Dolphin is the best way I know of to spend a memorable day off Port Aransas. Good sportsmen all, a fine boat, excellent weather, and a fishing dream come true. That's what I call a winning combination. When you seek out this streak of white lightning with spinning equipment, brother, you're really doing it the hard way. Talk about a fast deal. Once those bones strike, they zip all over the place. Some of the old-time boners like this fellow just wade right on after those skitterfish, and a small thing like a sand shark is all part of the deal. But like all bullies, back out is face up to it. Whenever the tide is almost out, it means only one thing. Mr. Bonefish is getting ready to tuck a napkin under his chin. Some of the fellows who are new to bone fishing, however, prefer to stick to the boat and sort of wonder what all the fuss is about. Imagine stalking fish by looking for a wiggling tail. But wait a minute. The guide spots him and just about explodes with excitement. Now's the time to offer something, and offer it he does. There's the fish. He takes it, and just look at him take off. He's taking that lure out with the speed of a supersonic jet. He's taking 50 feet of line off that spool before you can say bonefish. All this chap can do is just hang on while the line melts off the reel spool. But this spinning expert has the drag set just right. The moment that fish relaxed, he took over. And with a few last splashes, it's bone in the net. And there you have bonefish. Not fish for eating, but certainly a highly prized sports fish. It looks like the newcomer draws first blood, and is he ever proud? Meanwhile, the old-timer keeps looking for those tails. With water as clear as this, it'll be hard to miss them. There they are, with tails flipping in the breeze. With flawless technique, our spinning experts drops that yellow feather right under that bone's nose. And it stopped him dead. And this devil is breaking every rule in the book on how a good bone fish should act. This is certainly a real introduction to action. Whenever one thinks of the Florida Everglades, one thinks of tarpon, and rightfully so, but there's another fighter in these swamps, the snook, and still armed with light spinning tackle, our experts try for one. Those babies have powerhouse drive. And when they hit hard. Guess that old spinning tackle is pretty tough after all. Well, we'll soon find out. King Tarpon, the ballet dancers of fission that explode on top of the water like 10 tons of dynamite all packed tight into one writhing fury of muscle. But as these boys learn, many are hooked, but few are hung. The quiet water of the Everglades has yielded its action. And now out to the Gulf Stream in a small boat, still armed with light tackle, our experts are going to try for one of the greatest battlers of them all, the sailfish. There's a sudden flurry behind one of the baits. That sail's broad fin slashes into the air, and the skipper really pours it on as the expert jams that hook in tight. That blue warrior shoots straight up in the air and shakes its belly from stem to stern. Look at the strain on that tackle. After 40 minutes of vicious fighting, that sail puts all of its winning energy into one last gesture of defiance. He leaps into the air, bends nearly double, and twists with maniacal thrust as it makes one last effort to throw that hook. Then it's over almost as suddenly as it started. A grand champion has gone down under a still greater champion.
This city, centuries in the making, is Guayaquil, Ecuador's largest. Guayaquil is some 2 degrees below the equator, with its warm weather moderated by the upper fringes of the Humboldt Current, the current that also provides the nutrients that support some of the greatest fishing in the world. It's a good policy as well as a real pleasure to meet various people where our fishing and hunting adventures take place. A day touring Guayaquil is one well spent. We found a warmth and friendliness, a vigorous spirit that seems to be part of fishing, hunting, and sporting communities everywhere. Reminders of past glories during difficult times contrast with modern architecture of a people looking toward the future. But Guayaquil itself, while situated on the Gulf of Guayaquil, is not where the marlin are. 80 miles due west on a point of land that juts out into the Great Pacific stands the famous Punta Carnero Inn, poised above the waves, breaking onto a rugged and almost primordial beach. We weren't ready for all this, but it turned out to be an appropriate beginning to a fabulous fishing adventure. The hotel manager confirmed the stories we'd heard of fishing Ecuadorian waters. Ready to join me was Bob Roth. Early the following day, we were treated to a trip through villages that lined the road to the beach. These villages haven't changed for hundreds of years. Why should they? The sea provides for their needs, and it hasn't changed for thousands of years. We found the villagers happy and contented with little concern for the world's problems. They couldn't do much about them anyway. Excitement always builds when you reach the water, like a quarterback seeing the crowd as he enters the field of play. The calm water seemed to extend an invitation to stir up a little action. Little boys can stir it up no matter what the water looks like. One of the most feared sea inhabitants is this sawfish. He made spaghetti out of a perfectly good net, and he could easily dispatch a swimmer in a matter of seconds. The loss of their net resulting, however, in the capture of the dreaded sea creature might be compared to the feeling a man has when his mother-in-law runs his brand new car over a cliff. But it's time to go fishing. Having spent the night at the inn in all its splendor, we were not prepared for what was to come. Now, this is not your average launching procedure, not when you propose to engage in mortal combat with what many feel to be the king of all the open sea. We weren't sure what was supposed to happen, but we soon realized that all we had to do was sit there and wait for a wave, for the first good wave. We just had to be patient. The sea gives, but in its own way and own time. We decided to give the sea a helping hand. It sure needed it as far as our further adventures were concerned. We looked a bit like these pelicans just sitting there. Maybe what we needed was a good pair of wings. Certainly different from loading at a marina, but a pleasant change of pace it was. Perhaps a bit less of the good life for Bob would have made the Beach Boys' job easier. This looks like the one we're waiting for, and just as quickly as a wave does its thing that lifts us to freedom, thoughts of calorie counting escape from our minds. And this is not your average deep-sea fishing boat, 19 feet from bow to stern. But it defied any preconceived ideas that might have flashed through our minds, and it provided all the utility and comfort we could ask for. We needed to limber up a little, so on the way through the pass, we decided to wet a line. We're fishing with plugs, saving our other bait for later on. There's an economy in using artificial lures in which the lure returns unharmed, and some fishermen feel this adds a dimension to an already satisfying activity. The economy, of course, is not measured in dollars, but in the relationship between you and the fish. A lesser bribe, if you will. Who doesn't treasure that lure in his tackle box that continues to catch the most fish? The first fish of the day, a corvina. Good eating. There's some more of something out there. A single toss of the line, and I connected with one that meant business, hard pulling and stubborn. He wasn't ready to see daylight yet, and he dove to stay deep in the shadow of the boat. A beauty, gave a good account of himself, and that's characteristic of the whole Gruber family. Good on the table, too. The birds say, let's go. Doesn't hurt to follow them either. If they're hungry, they seem to know where the little ones are that attract the big ones we're after. So we'll troll to a new location and see about some of this bigger action. We're still not in marlin territory, but there's some great fishing in these waters just a few miles off the coast. Wasn't long in coming, strike. Just look at that reel spin. Tighten the drag and give a few pumps of the rod, and you send the hook home. When you feel the fish respond to the hook, you can settle down to the enjoyment of the contest. On the other end of this line is one of the gamest, fightingest, tastiest fish of the sea's menu, the dolphin, a fish the Spanish call the dorado. He'll fight you to the bitter end. They never heard the words give up, not until every sinew of their body is drained of energy. He could toss the hook with those lightning-fast slaps at the water. But he's ready to call it quits after a game struggle. Acknowledgement is appreciated from Bob and everyone else who happens to be around. Now it's Bob's turn, or is it? When a fisherman smiles like that, it's either of two things. He has a big one or he has a little one. This smile is for the little one, another grouper. Small, but more than a few fishermen would try to sweet-talk you out of it. Maybe it's Bob's chance for a game fish on medium spinning tackle. Another dolphin, and Bob's as happy as a kid with his first bicycle. When you think it's all over, he comes up with more of the same. A leap like that shows you the meaning of great fishing. You wonder where all that determination comes from. And when you finally bring him in, he'll delight your senses with his beauty of color and form. They are a very successful species with a wide range which includes all warm water oceans. The qualities that allow them to flourish in the struggle for survival, speed, and endurance are what makes them one of the most sought-after game fish in intermediate waters. How could an artist design a better-looking fish than that? We feel that there were marlin waiting for us, and they might get impatient, but we couldn't resist one more go at these exciting and beautiful fighters. A unique flavor makes them suitable as a companion to eggs on the breakfast table. If you can't fly home with them stashed in your luggage, the local people will be glad to relieve you of the burden. The captain stays in radio contact since we're over 50 miles at sea. This is where the big action is. The weather was perfect, but a good captain takes no unnecessary chances. Bait preparation is somewhat precise, but relatively simple in concept. Baby mackerel, ribbonfish, and ballyhoo are typical baits for billfish. Using any small cord, the head and mouth are wrapped securely. The hook inserted behind the cord is anchored against the force of water at trolling speed. The line is looped into the outrigger clip. The outrigger serves to separate the trolling lines, and at the moment of striking, the marlin will feel a slight resistance as the line is pulled from the clip. But then he'll be presented with a bait attached to a slack line. The drag on the reel is minimal to allow additional slack, and it's up to the person with the pole to wait the required time before setting the hook, or the marlin may just decide to forego his hors d'oeuvres. We're at our final destination. It's got to happen soon. There's a stirring in the water that can't hide from the probing eyes of the lookout. Captain Lloyd Dreyer of Port Aransas decides on the strategy to use to pull the bait across the path at the right speed, giving the marlin the right lead time. takes a well-coordinated effort to compensate for wind and current. Strike! The clip pulsates in response to an urgent line breaking away like an arrow from a taunt bow. A quick response to gain control of the rod can influence the outcome. A few more moments and it's time to set the hook. Too short a wait and the bait will not have been actually swallowed. Too long before you set the hook and the bait will be sensed for what it is and summarily rejected. The timing is on and we've hooked into a marlin and a beauty. Sometimes you forget that you can't fight him standing up. Not for as long as it's going to take to get this fellow on board. There's no one quite as important as the captain of your boat at a time like this. The degree of his expertise may easily tilt the scale in a closely fought contest. His reactions in maneuvering the boat need to match the tremendous physical endowments of the marlin, a marvelous creature that can strip your reel, break your line, or entangle the line in the prop. Someday when you're driving along at 45 miles an hour, think of a marlin being able to pass you waving his dorsal fin as he leaps clear of the water. That's right, 50 miles an hour for these beauties, and that's what makes him the grand prize for many a deep-sea fisherman. You watch the line cutting through the water, adding its own vibration to the slower rhythm of sheer power. The brightness of the sky with its open visibility contrasts with the dark and mysterious domain of the sea. It adds up to real all-out fishing, and it calls for the best in man and his equipment. Here's enough action for any dedicated saltwater angler and for those who would like to be. When you begin to tire as the contest wears on, it's nice to have enthusiastic crew members as well as your compatriots to cheer you on. As he gets closer to the boat, you can appreciate the magnificence of his form and coloration. He is a product of millions of years of evolving extraordinary speed, grace, and power. You pass the word to Captain Dreyer that the end is near, but naturally he can fool you and reel off some more line. The giant has at last been conquered. As one predator to another, you can't help but admire his spirit and determination. It requires the reproductive capacity of 10 smaller fish to feed one larger one, so you can see that there may well be rejoicing in the mullet and mackerel communities tonight, in addition to any celebrating at the hotel overlooking the rocky coast. But for now, this great and noble striped marlin deserves his place in the sun. In losing the struggle, he still retains his majestic presence. Another bait is softened for its better response through the water. The outrigger that produced such a spirited trophy is called upon to perform once more. Bait and teaser follow obediently behind. I did the best I could to make Bob feel confident to land one of these fellows. The ever-present porpoise seemed to echo the persuasion. And there it is, strike. No time to worry about confidence now. It's time to fight. And Bob goes to work. Many fishermen have expressed a certain wonder at the enjoyment they get watching their friends do the catching. Hardly any other sport gives the spectators so much involvement. Even the crew members maintain their enthusiasm. It's another big one, and Bob is giving it all he has. And that makes your part in the drama so much more rewarding when everyone on board is pulling for you. And you have the further enjoyment of tantalizing those people in other boats who seem to materialize from thin air. It'll soon be time to meet the adversary at close range. It differs from sailfish in having a smaller dorsal fin, but it makes up for it by being a bit more scrappy pound for pound. It's a strange feeling suddenly to have eye contact with this creature who has been fighting you from afar all this time. In most contests, you meet your opponent first. Certainly over 150 pounds. Bob was left speechless with the wonder of it all. No fish story would be complete without showing the ones that got away. It was too early to go home, so we caught a few more. But our limit was one each. They'll live to give another angler the pleasure we had on this day of plenty. The climax of the trip is staged on the beach. In a world unpredictable, we were somehow sure that this particular adventure would be completely satisfying. It will be warmly remembered anytime thoughts are directed to the sea, especially to the Humboldt Current that brings its vast bounty up from South Polar waters. For all time, it has been a blessing to the people living their uncomplicated lives on the west coast of South America. And it seemed appropriate to show our appreciation by handing out welcome refreshment after a long, tiring, and fulfilling day.